this is gonna be a weird kind of video because yes, I know I'm supposed to be a tech YouTuber, and yes, I know I'm supposed to be excited by every little improvement, every little software feature, but what I should be and what I end up being are at times two very different things. Now, self-deprecation apart, honestly, I like the AI stuff, but I also have my reservations on the actual usefulness of what they can and cannot do on a smartphone in the long run. That said, if you like me are on the fence about AI, how good is the Pixel 9 Pro XL for you? That's the angle I'm going for with this video. Now, if this is your first time here, or in case it slipped your mind, my name's Ash, you're watching C4E Tech, and let's get started. From a build and design perspective, I think Google's done just fine. There is a certain look that we associate with very expensive flagships, and Google's recreated that look quite well on the Pixel 9 Pro XL. The glossy metal frame, the matte glass back, it gives off a very iPhone-y vibe, but that camera visor to the back, it definitely adds a Google twist to it. Talking about Google twists, I hate the power button placement. Being above the volume rockers, it always takes a few days to get used to. It's not a big complaint, but it sure was annoying for the first week or so. Now the back and the display, they're both covered by Corning's Gorilla Glass Victus 2. Underneath this panel sits an ultrasonic fingerprint scanner that's placed at a very comfortable position. It's also quite fast and responsive. There's an IP68 rating for water and dust resistance, and the temperature sensor returns if that is something you were into. Now the soft matte finish to the back, it's slippery, and the 9 Pro XL is quite boxy and thick at 8.5mm. Add to it a weight of over 220 grams. This phone, like most other expensive flagships, it's not too ergonomic. That said, it does feel premium when you hold it. It's got a certain heft to it that feels nice in hand. Now, I do like the camera visor design. It makes cleaning accumulated dust easier than on, say, the S24 Ultra. And the fact that it's pretty much a horizontal line means there is no wobbling when you set this Pixel on a surface and use it. Now, the display here, Google's calling it a Super Actua display. Basically, it's an OLED panel with an almost Quad HD resolution, a solid 486 ppi. It's got a refresh rate of 120 Hz with LTPO tech present to vary it as needed. Google boasts of a brightness peak of 3000 nits, which is for HDR. In my testing, it output about 1300 nits under manual mode and a whopping 2200 nits under auto. Pretty much the highest I've seen on any phone till date. So using this Pixel outdoors on a sunny day, definitely not an issue. There are a pair of stereo speakers, loud and rich. Here's a side-by-side with the iPhone 15 Pro Max. See how the Pixel fares slightly better. Under the hood, Google's own Tensor G4 powers the Pixel 9 Pro XL. You also get 16 gigs of LPDDR5X RAM paired with 128, 256, 512 or up to a terabyte of UFS 3.1 storage. Now that's probably a letdown, but here's the thing. The Pixel 9 Pro XL, it's not a performance powerhouse. It's not the phone to buy if you're looking to, say, game. Now if you look at the compound benchmarks, it puts it close to the Snapdragon 8S Gen 3. The graphics scores, they're just above A+ Gen 1 levels, and even that you lose a major chunk off when the phone's pushed. So yes, you can run some games on it. Most Android games aren't too demanding, but this is definitely not a phone to buy if gaming is high priority. That said, weak as the specs might seem on paper, with practical usage, here's where this phone shines. The Pixel 9 series this time did not bring with them the latest version of Android, so Android 15 is something we don't have yet, we're gonna get soon. Is this a calculated move from Google? Now, they did say 7 years of Android updates. They've launched it at 14. So is it going to get updates till 21? Or since this year is actually 15, is it going to get updates till 22? Now, that's something only time will tell, I suppose. Anyways, the interface, like I said, it's where the Pixel shines. Now, to be fair, we've seen phones with, say, the 8 Gen 1 perform really well with day-to-day use. So regular use doesn't really need a whole lot of horsepower these days. But even then, this combination, the Pixel experience with a responsive phone, a smooth display, I definitely find it on par with the Pro iPhones. The smoothness factor is in fact amongst the best I've seen on the Android side of things. And no matter how you're using this phone, the 50-60 mAh battery on the inside will get you through a day on a single charge. That said, there is no charger in the box. The unboxing experience is quite bare bones. The 9 Pro XL, it can be charged at up to 37 watts, so it gets you about 40% in 15 minutes. A full charge takes you about 80 minutes. And there's also wireless charging support. Now, I did say we're going to remove that AI hype, didn't I? Now here's why. There are a lot of interesting things that you can do with Gemini Advanced here on the Pixel 9 Pro XL, but they do require a subscription. The first year comes free with this phone, meaning, in other words, you're going to have to continue paying annually to do most of these things. Are these features cool? Sure. Like we have Gemini Live, which lets you have like a normal uninterrupted conversation with Google's AI assistant. Super cool. But it is not necessarily reliable. Like here's a conversation I had with it, pause and read through it to see how many times I had to correct it. I'm sure it will get better with time. Now there are other AI features that aren't tied to the subscription and are still cool. I'm sure you've been seeing tons of add me images on social media. Basically, you take a picture and then you can add yourself to it. Then there's Magic Eraser that lets you remove stuff from images once you've taken a shot. Works really well here. Then there is auto framing, which gets you to better focus on a subject. Then there's Reimagine, which lets you type in prompts to change details in an image. Pretty well implemented. There's a dedicated screenshots app, a new weather app, there's Pixel Studio, an image generator, all pretty cool. Now, let's move on to the optics. To the back, the Pixel 9 Pro XL, it has 3 cameras. The primary is a 50 megapixel 1x1.31 inch sensor that's been paired with an optically stabilized f1.7 lens. Images, as expected from Pixels, they were excellent. Excellent detail, excellent dynamic range. When you compare these images side by side with, say, the S24 Ultra and the iPhone 15 Pro Max, you see the Pixel has a bit of a pinkish hue at times. Like, once again, look at the set. Now, barring that, it's every bit on par with the flagships. It's challenging. Even under low light, there are times like here with that wall texture where I feel the Pixel outperformed the S24 Ultra and the 15 Pro Max. And for the most part, barring some very slight color misses, the 9 Pro XL was exceptional under low light. With video, you can shoot 8K via the primary camera, and I compared the 4K 60 footage with those shot by the same two phones. Once again, the Pixel, it held up quite nicely. The video quality is excellent. The EIS jitter, which I usually get annoyed by on Pixels, it's not present here. That said, it is not on par with the other two when it comes to the smoothness of switching to another sensor while shooting. The ultrawide and the periscope, they also do well, on par with other flagship offerings. That said, the coolest part here for me is if you were a 90s kid like me and you grew up watching all those TV shows where they just would say something like pause, zoom, enhance, and miraculously pull out detail out of a few pixels, that can actually kinda be done on the 9 Pro XL. Zoom Enhance is what it's named. It uses machine learning to add detail when you zoom in. It does it reasonably well. It's not as magical as what we've seen on TV, but it does lead to cleaner zoomed in shots, which is a nice touch. For selfies, we get a 42 megapixel shooter and the pictures turned out alright. Pixel phones have always had an edge when it comes to selfies, and while that gap's narrowed in recent years, it's still the leader here, especially with video, 4K 60, super smooth, the typical pixel contrast, excellent dynamic range. Now, before we jump to the conclusion, a big shout out to video sponsor Anbernic. This is the new RG40XX V, a vertical blown up Game Boy form factor handheld with an ultra narrow bezel. It's got an excellent D-pad, responsive buttons. It can emulate a lot of old school consoles up to Dreamcast and Nintendo 64. That 4-inch 4x3 panel works great for these type of games. The ergonomics are also pretty awesome, and the price, at about $65, it's very competitively priced. To know more about Anbernic's RG40XX V, check out the link in the description below. Now, coming back to the Pixel 9 Pro XL, where does this leave us? Now, this is a very expensive phone. Now, depending on the market you're in, it's priced equal to or slightly cheaper than the iPhone 15 Pro Max and the S24 Ultra. And remember, this phone, its base is 128 gigs, the other two start at 256. And for the most part, except the very important raw performance, the 9 Pro XL keeps up with its competition. So yeah, you do lose raw performance, but what do you gain for it? The AI stuff, which to me is nice, but some of it at least feels like novelty. Like, how much would I use Pixel Studio a year from now? Do I see myself using AdMe enough that I miss it when I'm on other phones? Other features like auto framing and Reimagine aren't even done on phone, meaning it's only a matter of time before they make their way over to other phones. Gemini Advanced and Gemini Live are cool, but do I see myself paying for Google AI after the free year is over? To me, the 9 Pro XL, if it were a good 20-30% cheaper, I'd love to pick it up. But if Google wants to price themselves at the same level as Samsung and Apple flagships, then Google needs to either offer the same level of performance as a Samsung or Apple flagship, or at least provide some kind of unique features that are going to remain exclusive to the phone they are selling at this price. So the current price, the 9 Pro XL, as much as I found myself liking it, it's not a phone I'd recommend. And that's my 2 cents. What do you think about the 9 Pro XL? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Ash out.